Hey. Hello, everybody. Today is our discussion on intuition and wellness. And I wanted to start today with just giving you a little background of my understanding about one way in which intuition relates to our health and wellness, and just some of the areas that I've seen it really show up for women over the years. And then if there's any questions, if you want to drop them into the chat in Facebook, you can do that. And hello, Bonnie. Okay, so one thing that I became very aware of for myself as intuition is related to health and wellness is that for many people, why they get stuck with a health issue, or why they may feel like they're even trying to address it and they're not having progress, is because many times our health issues are multifaceted. They really need to be looked at and addressed from the various levels. And so what I mean by that is there may be, for example, with your migraine, headaches, IBS issues, chronic fatigue, there typically are a physiological reason. So it could be nutritional, it could be vitamins, minerals, things like that. But then there's usually also a emotional component to that problem, an emotional piece to it. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. And there's also even an energetic component to it. And so I'll just give you my own little story with it. When years ago, I got diagnosed with, well, I had my major problem was fatigue after I had my second child. And at first we thought it was just postpartum depression, fatigue, having two kids 15 months apart and all of that. And I wasn't getting better. I just wasn't moving past the fatigue. And I knew at one point that I wasn't depressed. I was just tired all the time. And I started working with a nutritionist out of Alaska, and she was an intuitive, and she would read my body and tell me what vitamins and minerals I was missing. And that definitely helped me immensely, but it didn't get me all the way across the bridge to my healing process. And then I really had to start looking at, was there an emotional piece to my problem? Was there a story, a narrative piece to my problem? And sure enough, there was. And so what I love about intuition is it can help you tap in, listen to your inner voice, listen to your body, and find out what's going on at all of those different levels. And over the years, I've come to realize that almost all chronic health conditions I've observed through my work as a hypnotherapist and an intuitive healer, that almost all chronic health conditions have a emotional piece to them, or even where a decision was made somewhere back in time to basically energetically shut down or emotionally shut down. So I've seen this with people with migraines, and I feel like if I give you some case studies, you'll be able to probably understand this a little bit better. So I had a lady who came to me for migraine headaches, and she had tried every medicine. She was still having debilitating migraines. And so she came to do some hypnotherapy to see if that could help. And through the course of our work together, what she discovered was that as much as the migraines were physical, they were extremely painful. If you've ever had one, I mean, for me personally, I've had one and it felt like I was trying to birth a child out of my cranium. And that's one of the worst feelings you could ever feel. But what she discovered was that her migraines were the secondary payoff or benefit was that she didn't have to go to work and that she hated her job. And so the migraines were her subconscious mind's way of creating an escape for her. And so once she was aware of that, she was in a great position where she was able to then quit her job. And she came back to me 6 months later and she said, the day I walked out of that place, I never had another migraine since then. So that's an example of something that can happen for people. Another thing could be that just someone is going through chronic stress, sustained stress, and IBS is another big one that's really related to stress and what this, the body's not able to handle. I feel like a lot of empaths, people who are highly sensitive, will have health issues that are related to their high sensitivity. So that can be stomach issues, it can be fatigue, and things like that. So if you guys have any questions, if you want to drop them in the chat, or if it's something private, you don't want to talk about it today in the group, you're definitely welcome to text me, drop me a message, and or DM me, and I can talk to you about it. But one thing I do want to also mention is that I don't know how many of you have watched the read Louise Hay's book, which is You Can Heal Your Life. And it's a international bestseller. It's been very, very popular for years. And in that book, those of you who've read it, those of you who haven't, she lists a host of A to Z ailments for people, and what those ailments mean. So she'll say diabetes, for example, means someone who isn't really connecting with the sweetness of life. Gosh, I even think I have the book over here. And I will tell you, even though I love the fact that in a general sense that Louise did the world a favor by making it very well known that there is an emotional piece and a thought or a belief behind our health issues, I believe on some level it can do people a disservice, because what I have found with hypnotherapy is that I'm guiding you, the individual, to discover what that health issue is symbolizing, representing for you individually. And yes, you could say that after 25 years of doing this work and working with thousands of people, I do see patterns, absolutely. But they can be nuanced, and that can, I think that really needs to be acknowledged, is that there is one no size fits all for our health challenges, for the reasons behind our health challenges. I do believe everyone should be looking at it on the different levels of physiology, nutrition, energy, and emotions and thoughts, those 4 levels, and having a process to discover what may be the blocks on those different 4 levels: energy, emotions, thoughts, and your physical body. But I would hesitate to recommend to anyone that they just go and read Louise Hay's book and say, oh my gosh, she says it's X, so it's X. Read the book and say, okay, wow, yeah, there's something else at play here. Another good book in that regard that I really love is John Sarno's Divided Mind, which Pamela mentioned this morning in our Facebook group. And so it talks about how the body will manifest our negative thoughts and our suppressed emotions. Mona Lisa Schultz, which I think she's also a Hay House author. I studied her medical intuition course years ago, and something I really love that she said is emotions that we suppress, we will internally, if we suppress them, they will manifest as dis-ease, a health issue. So I think that's the general thoughts that I wanted to share with you about this, but I wanted to also give an example of when I was talking about there's no one size fits all. I've worked with a couple different women who've had throat cancer. And for those of you who are into the chakras and the energy centers, most of you know that the throat chakra can be about speaking your truth, communication, etc. And I worked with one client who was going through throat cancer, and when we were looking at the emotional reason or the limiting beliefs surrounding the issue with her throat being diseased, for one of them it was not speaking her truth, and for the other one it was not asking for help. And so for one of them, having throat cancer forced her, a very independent, feisty woman, to have to ask for help, to get people to help her, take her to her treatments and things like that. And in a general sense, you could say that I see a lot of times one of the spiritual offerings or gifts of disease, especially cancer, is that we are forced to ask for help. We're forced to get help, and many of us are so independent. We're used to giving to others instead of giving to ourselves. And so I really do believe that if we get the lesson, if we understand what the deeper meaning is to to our ailment or disease, then we erase that karma. We get the wisdom and we understand the lesson, and then we don't have to have the ailment or the disease anymore. Okay, so I'm looking at Bonnie in the chat here, and you say, though I liked Louise Hay's book, I couldn't see the connections she suggested to be true in my case. Okay. As one example, I remember that low back pain is associated with lack of financial support. I've been blessed with that among my various issues. That is not one of them. Exactly. Yes, Bonnie. So for some people that could be true, the low back, but interestingly, for some people, it's the upper back that is the lack of, not necessarily financial support, but it could be like, I've got the world on my back, I'm the provider. But I know a very talented body intuitive, William Nelson, who's out of Atlanta. He used to be in California when I was there. And he's worked in a chiropractor's office for years. And he said low back is childhood issues. And mid back is your day-to-day life issues. Upper back, I forget what he said. And then neck is spiritual issues. So that's someone else's paradigm, that's somebody else's code or set of standards for what things relate to what. And I think with anything, when you really step into your fullest, deepest knowing with intuition, is you have this ability, this word that I'm going to throw out again, called discernment. And discernment is when you are able to take information that's given to you, presented to you through a book, through a conversation, through a YouTube video, or whatever outside source is coming in, and you are the ultimate, like, deciding mechanism. You are able to say, yes, that information resonates with me. No, that information doesn't resonate with me. And what I'd like to give you all today as something you can start doing is, if you are struggling with some type of health issue, one of the main things you can do for yourself to find out what you need in your healing, or body support, physical support, and the steps that you need to take in the order you need to take them, is to begin to ask questions. And when you ask questions, you're sending those questions down to the subconscious mind, which is deeply connected with your body. And the body has its own wisdom. Your body is infinitely wise. You were born with this ability to internally kill disease, heal from cuts, wounds, constantly regulate your body temperature depending on what's going on around you, regulate your heart rate, birth children. Our body knows what to do to develop a baby, to feed a baby through milk when we're born. So our body has this amazing innate wisdom that we can tap into. And so when you're unsure, what you could say, for example, with Bonnie with low back pain, is you can ask your body, you can do like a morning meditation where you drop in out of your head into your body, go right into that area. If there is a set area, if you're having something systemic or an autoimmune disease, it's a little bit different, but with low back pain, you can go into that area and just sit with that part, just be present with that part, because sometimes when we have chronic pain, we get to hate that part. Oh my gosh, I hate my low back, it's always sore. You want to be present with that part, listen to that part, and ask your low back a couple different questions you can ask, like, what do I need to know to heal this back pain? What do I need to know to heal these migraines? What do I need to know about my allergies? So you ask those questions, and some of you may get instant answers. Some of you, it may roll in as a knowing when you're in some sort of natural trance state, like in the shower, exercising, driving, listening to music. Sometimes it, until you are really adept at really listening and just feeling confidence in your intuition, you have to watch for the answers. They may come to you in a dream. And I really love this because, you know, we can affirm all day long, oh, you know, my back feels comfortable and loose and supple and comfortable, but that's like putting a Band-Aid on it. You really want to get to what is, you know, what's going on here. You can talk to that part. What do you need from me that you're not getting? And you'll be surprised, the more you talk with a symptom or an area, the more questions you ask, the more your intuitive mind, your subconscious mind, your higher self, everything, collective consciousness will begin to serve up those answers to you. And it's really fascinating to me how some people are just naturally aware enough to like grab that information when it's coming to them. And I'll give you an example. I was just amazed. I was talking to a friend of mine over the Memorial Day weekend, and I knew, well, he told me that he had had cancer, and he had had the blood cancer. Gosh, I'm not thinking of it right now. Somebody can tell me. But what was interesting was, I don't know if it's leukemia, but this is how he discovered that he had the cancer. He said that he's talking to some guy who had been diagnosed with colon cancer, and the guy had said that he had these pains in his lower abdomen. And my friend said, you know, as soon as he said it, it was like some part of me just stood up and like dialed in and was just immediately like attentive. listening, like, like there's something here for me. There's something that's catching his attention. It's like an energy zing. Sometimes when I get that, I get like this zing, like, oh, someone just said something, or they're about to say something that's significant. So he got that feeling of what he just said is significant. So he said, I've been having these little stomach pains, and and people get stomach pains all the time, but he's like, I just really felt like it was something more than that. And so he went to the doctor, he got checked, and he did not have colon cancer, but he had the white cell blood cancer, but they caught it at stage 1. So he had to have chemo and radiation, I guess, but they caught it at stage 1. He's totally in remission now. And he said, had I not listened to that little, pay attention, this is significant. And even though someone could say, well, his intuition was wrong, because it's 2 parts. This is often where people get stuck. It's like something said, this is significant, pay attention. That was his intuition. His left brain, analytical mind, said, maybe I have, colon cancer too. So, but he followed up on it anyway, and thank goodness, because it probably has saved his life. But that's the kind of thing that can happen as well in when you're developing your intuition, is you'll have a feeling about something, and then the left brain steps in and kind of gives a commentary about it. But if you really start to pay attention, the signs were there, and or the signs are there. So what else? I wanted to tell you all too, I've worked with tons and tons and tons of breast cancer survivors, and I was on the board for a breast cancer survivor nonprofit for about 5 years. I hosted emotional healing workshops for the survivors, and I've also worked with a Dr. Chong in Canada who has reversed dozens of cases of incurable cancer. And he's done it through hypnosis, and he's done it through having people look at their stress and their emotions. And he has this belief that when we have emotional stress and it persists for a certain amount of time, at a certain level for a certain amount of time, he believes it predisposes people to certain types of cancer. And so, one thing I really want to say to everyone, and I've been saying it all along, and I'm just, I hope people aren't like, why does she keep going on about anxiety and stress when this is an intuitive group? But it really is because those things block our inner knowing often. When we're caught in our minds in chronic stress, sometimes we can't hear what our body has to tell us. Sometimes we can't hear our own inner knowing or intuition because we're stuck in that loop of just spin cycle or disconnecting from the body. And I even believe that unhealthy habits, health-wise, that those things are related to us not listening to our body, us not listening to our needs. Okay, let's see. So Bonnie says, off the top of my head, what you just mentioned regarding the chiropractor's code might resonate more for me. I would love to use my intuition to understand chronic pain. I read The Body Keeps the Score last year and would love to understand how to apply that. So as I understand it, The Body Keeps the Score, which a lot of people really love that book. It's basically this thing that I agree with, that when you go through stresses and traumas, and when you're a child, lots of things can be stressful and traumatic that wouldn't be as an adult. How I see what happens is that you go through that stress, it's emotional, it's upsetting, and then the energy of that emotion is trapped in the body and it doesn't get released. And then it basically remains in your energy body, and you're holding it in your body, and then those things build up, and that's what I call the emotional well. And that emotional well can cause depression. That emotional well can keep us in chronic cycles of anxiety. That emotional well can be related to chronic health conditions. I've seen it be related to rheumatoid arthritis and chronic pain. And it could be just, you know, years and years of sadness or disappointment, or it could be some big upsetting event, but it's like the emotional charge doesn't get discharged. And when you see animals out in nature, when a duck or a dog gets scared or has some intense experience, you'll see them shake. And so I know that there's even a therapy where people go and shake out their emotional stress. And there's a term for that, a phrase for that type of treatment. But yes, I do believe that the body keeps the score. And one way you can clear that is through something like hypnosis or even Reiki. Some of my clients, I was finding that they weren't able to completely clear their childhood stresses with hypnotherapy, which I believe helps people clear on the subconscious level and the levels of emotion and stories, whereas Reiki and energy work, like shamanic work, I think can even heal and clear us at that deeper level of energy, the DNA level in your bones type of deep, deep sorrow, stress, and things like that. So I do also, I have done some work where I'm doing hypnosis on someone while I'm also doing Reiki on that person simultaneously. I've also worked with other practitioners, one in particular where I'm doing hypnosis while he's doing the energy work at the same time. And those can be really powerful for this exact reason that I'm talking about, because you're hitting those problems on two different levels: the level of subconscious mind, well, and the emotions, and the level of energy, and the light body and DNA. So I know, I don't see Rosie on here today, but I do know that she had asked about something today, and I see Pam talked about reading The Divided Mind and Feelings Buried Never Die. So those are two good books that if you're interested in this comment or in this line of thinking and healing, they're two that I highly recommend. The Divided Mind by John Sarno, Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. Don't recall who the author is on that, but if someone knows, they could drop it into the chat. And then I wanted to ask, let's see, Rosie was asking about something today on our topic of intuition and wellness. And she said, I want to learn about intuition and self-care for wellness, and about intuition and body emotion code. So as far as intuition and self-care for wellness, what we had done, I think, I did in the FB Live last week, or 2 weeks ago, I did the chakra reading where you tune into your chakras, your energy center. So something you can do every day. Again, it seems very simple, but it's a way for you to start connecting with your body, connecting to the subconscious mind, connecting to the wisdom of your body, understanding the metaphors and the messages behind your symptoms. And it doesn't have to be long and convoluted. You can literally just in the morning. Why I like morning is because there's less analytical filter going on just first thing in the morning before you even get out of bed. If you're having some kind of health issue, just drop down into your body and just ask, what do I need to know to help you today? What do I need to know to feel better today? And so you can ask those questions like that. Then you can also have some fun with asking your questions in a different way. So if I'm having a week where I'm tired or just low energy, many of you probably know sometimes affirmations don't work. And the reason they don't work is because your body will say, like, you might say, oh, I have energy and I feel good in my body. And this other voice says, no, you don't. You feel like crap. Or it just will, you have this other part of you that's not buying into the affirmation, is my point with that. So something else you can do is say to yourself, like, oh, if I'm having, you know, I wake up and I'm like, gosh, I could sleep for 2 more hours and yeah, I gotta go. Or I just go back to the gym, so my body's kind of tired, adjusting to that level of energy again. And so I'll say, like, why do I have so much energy? Why am I so energized and feeling good in my body? And I'll ask it like I really mean it. And you can trick your brain into, trick your mind into finding solutions for you by asking questions like that. Why are my, you know, allergy symptoms almost completely gone? And you ask it as if you expect that answer, but I'm asking it in a way where it's almost like I'm playing out this future reality for myself as if it's already happened. And so I've worked with, in the past several months, someone who has epileptic seizures, and any of you all who've ever been through that, you know how scary it can be. It can be very unpredictable and things like that. And through our work together and through her own going deeper into her intuition, she was able to identify some habit changes, some health changes, some dietary changes that she needed to make, and even some more profound answers that I won't share due to, you know, privacy. But through this process of self-awareness, tapping into her own inner knowing, through something like meditation or hypnosis, she has gotten some amazingly profound answers about how to mitigate her symptoms and do everything she can in her life to minimize the likelihood of that. And one of the biggest things was stress, just cutting out people, situations, habits, anything that was putting stress on her system. And so these are the kind of things I'm talking about as far as like really listening. Mindy says, any recommendations on intuition and others' wellness or how to interpret that energy? Mindy, if you're on here, can you like be reply and just maybe a little more specific? So because I want to make sure that I'm answering that like specifically, correctly, or to the best that I can. But intuition and others' wellness, so meaning like, yes, you can read, you can do medical intuitive readings on people. You may already, many of us already do that. It's like you can look at someone and just go, oh, you know, I feel like that person is sick, you know, and you can sense something, or you can sense that their energy is down. I think we can feel people's energy, and some people even have this innate ability to know when something's off with someone. So let me just refresh my screen and see how to interpret that energy. So I'm not really, let me see if she says any more about that. Any recommendation on intuition and others' wellness, how to interpret that energy? Well, I think the first thing is, I know so many of you are empaths, and even just Mindy, thinking about the kind of people that you work with and health challenges and everything, I think that the minute that we go into feeling sorry for people, then we don't offer them the best that we could offer someone when we feel sorry for that person. Because I believe personally, when we feel sorry for someone's situation, then we're mentally envisioning a outcome for them where they're stuck, where they're limited, where even like their health condition is going to get worse. And, you know, it's a fine line, because I think sometimes when we are intuitive, we know like, oh, this isn't going to get better. Oh my gosh, I can see that this is not going to be a good outcome, or we sense that, or we feel that for people. And that's just like a knowing, you know, and they're on a certain path. And sometimes when we go down a certain path, it's really hard to jump tracks with that. But even if I know that about someone, that I know that they're on a really rough path, health-wise, I'm a big believer in the power of prayer and energy and visualization. And so if you're going to offer something to someone who is struggling with some health issue, think about this. What would they rather receive from you? Would they rather receive an energy of, oh, I feel sorry for you, I pity you, I feel bad for you? Or you don't even have to say anything to that person, but wouldn't it be better to offer them, I believe in you. I believe that miracles can happen, and miracles do happen. Google it, people. Like, there are these amazing, I think Joe Dispenza wrote You Are the Placebo, and his book is about like all these cases of people who have radically healed themselves. And like Dr. Chong, I told you about, he cured his own pancreatic cancer, which is one of the most lethal kinds. I mean, it's like, I feel like when someone comes to my office, one of the gifts that I want to give this person is I'm going to believe that miracles can happen for this person, even if they can't latch on to that themselves. Like, and I'd much rather that be what I give to that person, that higher belief, that knowing that we can impact our physical body, we can impact our healing. And with that, I'll leave you guys with one story. And one of my instructors was a woman named Patty Levitin, and I studied with her and her husband, Chuck Levitin, through, I met them at Orange Coast College in Southern California. It was right after I finished my clinical hypnotherapy certification training, and I did a special type of training with them called interactive guided imagery. And one weekend was all about deciphering the metaphors and the messages from our symptoms, whatever our health issues are. And Patty was extremely passionate about this because she believed that she had healed herself from cancer. So she was a stockbroker when she met Chuck. And right after they'd been dating for about 6 months, she started losing vision in her left eye. She went to the eye doctor. Anyway, they found out she had a tumor behind her left optical nerve, and it was slowly impinging upon there and causing her to lose her vision. And then she completely lost vision. She went to the Hoag Hospital, did some treatment, and back then, I guess in whatever time period that was, in the 80s, you know, there was only so many things they could do. They sent her home and they said, you know, you probably have about 6 months to live, the tumor is growing, blah, blah. And so Chuck worked with her to talk with the tumor. And so every day she would talk with the tumor, and she would ask the tumor to give her a message or a word. Every day she would write down that message or that word, and she would write a poem or a story from it. And what came forward was her parents had been tragically killed on a train track. Their vehicle got stuck on a train track, probably in the 60s, and they died, and she was only 17, and she just never processed it, never got over it. And so she did this, a lot of like clearing the well, clearing those emotions, processing them, acknowledging them, grieving, all of that, just poured that out. And 6 months goes by, she's still alive, and she starts seeing light in this eye. So she's thinking, okay, you know, I don't know what's really going on here. Well, she starts to get vision back in this eye. So she goes back to Hoag Hospital. The same radiologist scans her brain and says, I would not believe this if I was not the one to be giving you the x-ray the first time around. But her tumor on the back of her eye had gone from the size of a golf ball to a pea. And he said there's just, you know, there was just no known explanation for that. And she did regain all vision in her eye. You know, I don't think she ever went back to get it scanned again. She just wasn't that type of person, but she fully came into knowing that she had this cancer for a reason, that it opened her to her soul path, her soul mission. I do hear that message all the time for each of you to know this, that what you heal within yourself will reveal to you your soul purpose. Oftentimes it's part of what you have to give to everyone else. And so she went, studied this intuitive guided imagery, started teaching and training and certifying people with it, traveled all over the country, and lived to a ripe old age in her 80s, and died of something, just natural causes, totally unrelated. And so I love that story. I love that we can really find hope and inspiration if we look for it. We can find stories where our body has this amazing ability to heal. And so I hope that all of this has been inspirational to many of you. And like I said, it doesn't have to be complicated to start tapping into that intuition with your health, with your wellness, with your body. Just the main thing is to start asking questions. Just ask your body questions, and simple questions like, what do you need from me today? What do I need to have more energy? Or why do I have so much energy? And if you have any other questions about this, just reach out to me. You can pop something in below this FB Live video, and I hope this all has helped. And my love to each of you. I'm so honored. Our group has grown to over 200, and I'm always welcoming suggestions, ideas for how I can help each of you to grow your intuition. And have a great afternoon, and my love to each of you.